Grant. I'm the Marketing Director here at QuoteWerks. Today we're going to be doing a brief demonstration of the QuoteWerks product. We'll actually do more of a getting started with the software so you can kind of see how you can start using it in just 15 minutes. The first thing we're going to cover is a short PowerPoint presentation. So we're going to go over just kind of the agenda. It'll just take a couple minutes to kind of point out the major items you'll want to kind of check off your list when you start using the software. We'll go over the workflow for the software itself so you can actually see kind of how you should typically use the software or what are the most common ways that the software is actually used. And then some additional resources, we'll be sure to point that out to you so you can find the help file, the videos on the website, the users form, all that information. So today we're going to be covering how to connect to your CRM or PSA. So if you're using any of the CRM or PSAs that we support, we'll show you how to get those connected. How to import a product list or set up your items in QuoteWerks. So if you want to get your items in QuoteWerks, we'll be discussing that as well. How to set up your preferences, so how you can put your contact information in your document, and also how to set up your email so you can actually email the quotes from QuoteWerks. And then we'll also go over just some minor layout changes. So if you want to be able to drop your own logo on the layout to the customer, change fonts, colors, things like that, we'll discuss that. And then we'll briefly discuss the options where you can actually set the defaults for the software itself. So we'll kind of point out all that information to you so you can get a little more familiar with where that information will be set up. So one of the biggest questions we always get are what CRMs or PSAs are supported. So we do support about 12 of the most popular CRM or PSA systems. There's a full list available on the website, but that's going to be typically Act4Web, Goldmine, Autotask, ConnectWise, Salesforce.com, Sugar, MS CRM, Outlook, SalesLogix is another one, and there's a few other smaller ones that are supported as well. There's also some third-party integrations. So if you don't see your CRM or PSA available, there may be a third-party integration for it. So make sure to check that portion of the website. You can also just send us an email or give us a call, and we'd be happy to answer your question for that as well. For the accounting integrations, we support two native accounting integrations. We support the QuickBooks accounting integration for US, Canada, and the UK. For Sage 50, we actually support just the US edition for that currently. There is a third-party company that actually supports a Canadian version of Sage 50, so if you are using that, there's an integration available for that from one of our partners. There's some other third-party integrations available as well, so if anyone's using Great Plains, one of our partners wrote an integration in Great Plains. There's a couple available also, so just let us know which one you're looking for, and we can let you know if there's an integration available. If there's not an integration available for your CRM or one that you're looking for, we do supply our API for free. You just have to sign the developer agreement, so you can actually pay to have someone write that integration for you. So that's going to be another option for you. One thing I didn't want to mention, on this GoToMeeting panel, you should see an option for questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to post them, and I'll circle back and answer them probably after the demonstration is over. We'll have plenty of time to take your questions and make sure we can show you anything that you are curious about or would like to see in QuoteWerks itself. So QuoteWerks has obviously a few different layout options. Those are all customizable, so you can send a simple one-page quote. You can send a multiple-page proposal. It's going to be up to you. So we're going to cover that today, kind of how you can make some adjustments to these. There's a few that come with the software already, so that it kind of gives you a starting point, but you could create a brand new layout if you wanted to. We have two different layout types. We have the QuoteWerks Layout Designer, which is basically based on database fields that you select and move around the document to kind of build your document and show what it looks like that. And then we also support Microsoft Word, so if you wanted to use Word instead, maybe you already have your layout in Word and you just want to add some QuoteWerks macros to it, that's going to be available for you as well. Products and services, we support both. A lot of times in our documentation you may read that we talk about just products or just services. We do support both. As long as they're line items, we can support them. We do support recurring revenue, so if you do have services that are weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annual, those will be supported in QuoteWerks as well. We're able to import those items using our product import wizard, so if you do have your items in a database, maybe an Excel sheet, Access database, SQL database, we can either import those or link to those existing databases. You can also manually create your databases in QuoteWerks, so if you wanted to set up a database where you just add your items kind of as you go, that's an option for you as well. You also have the option to attach like pictures and spec sheets to those items as well. So if you want to manually make changes to those items, you'll be able to do that. Additionally, if you're using Salesforce, Autotask, ConnectWise, we can link directly with those product sources. So if you already have your items set up in one of those CRMs or PSAs, we can link directly to that. Same thing with QuickBooks. If you're using QuickBooks and you want us to link directly to the product source in QuickBooks, we can do that also. We can also link to existing databases. So if you already have them set up in Access or SQL or another ODBC compliant link, we'd be able to set that up also. QuoteWerks is an add-on to QuoteWerks. So this is a question we get often. If you've ever received a quote from us, or if you've been on our website and you've seen mention of QuoteWerks, we often get the question, well, what is QuoteWerks? What does it do? QuoteWerks allows you to send an interactive electronic quote to your customer, where the customer can then electronically sign off on the document. They can also accept it electronically and make payment electronically. You'll receive notifications when you for each of these steps. You can kind of track what the customer is doing or where the document is in that progress. So you'll get those email and inbox notifications for those certain steps. There's also a QuoteWerks Web, which is going to be the reporting engine for QuoteWerks. So it's going to provide you that information of kind of what's going on with these documents in QuoteWerks, how your sales reps are doing. You can compare your reps against each other. So a lot of really cool information that comes with QuoteWerks. So that's something that we can show here in this demonstration if you guys were interested in seeing that. We do have a lot of security settings available. So if you are worried about needing to kind of secure the software itself and make sure that your reps aren't able to view things that they can't, we have a ton of security settings. I'll show you where those can be set up. You can set up security settings based on each user, so you don't have to share security settings across users. You'll have complete control over what they can see, so what documents they can view, what changes they can make to the program, what they can see via such as like products and databases and things of that nature. So you'll have a lot of options to kind of drill down there. As far as the document and program settings, you can also control exactly what the customer or what your reps can see and kind of what they can do from there. So the QuoteWerks workflow is going to be pretty simple. Essentially what we can do is we're going to create the document, deliver it to the customer, have the customer sign off on it, then place the order, and then fulfill it all the way to delivery. So the first step in any QuoteWerks document is you select your contact. You would then select your items for sourcing. So you select your products, your services, and build the actual quote or proposal. We would then save it, and then we can deliver that quote or proposal to the customer. You can deliver it either via email, or you can use QuoteWerks, which I'll show you also. Once the customer has signed off on it and has made payment, or if they've just accepted it, maybe they have terms with you, you can then move forward to converting that quote to an order. That's how we close a quote in QuoteWerks. So that's going to be an important step for you, that if you are using QuoteWerks with any of the CRM or PSAs that we use, you want to make sure that you're converting your quotes to orders, because that's how we update that opportunity in that CRM or PSA as closed or won. Once that's done, you can then resource the product from the different vendors. You can check pricing from your vendors before you actually place the order, and then that would be the next option, is to place your order. And then you can create the PO. If you want to use QuoteWerks to create the purchase order in QuickBooks, Sage 50, Autotask, or ConnectWise, you can do that straight from our software. If you just want to export the document out of QuoteWerks, maybe to Excel or something like that, and import it into your accounting software manually, that's going to be an option for you also. And then from there, you'd be able to track the order to delivery fulfillment. So we actually have a place in QuoteWerks where we can create the purchase order, and then you can actually mark it as received and add serial numbers and tracking numbers and things like that to keep track of the items. We have a lot of resources on our website, so if you haven't been to our website, or if you've only been a couple of times, I would highly suggest checking it out. We have a lot of videos that go over specific features in the software, so if you want to see how QuoteWerks integrates directly with perhaps your CRM or your PSA, go to the website. We actually have a video for each one of those that'll walk you through how that works. We also have just overview videos, so if you just want to get a kind of good idea of kind of what QuoteWerks can do, we have information for that. And then we also have our webinar and demonstration videos, so if you want to see a full overview or maybe a specific topic that we covered, we record all our webinars, so they're all posted on the website. You can see that. So if you want to see what new features came out, or we just did one recently where we showed all the new features from 2014, you'll be able to see that. We do have our help file. Help file is the online manual, so if you have questions about a feature in QuoteWerks, or if you're wanting to know if it can do that, you can search our help file. It is online, so it makes it very easy to locate and look for items. So it's searchable by keyword, and there's even an index to simplify that even further. We go to a lot of events, so if you're ever out at an event, definitely stop by the booth. We'd be happy to speak with you, show you what's new in QuoteWerks or what we've been working on recently. We go to a lot of ASCII events. We'll be at Autotask Community Live here in, I think, next month in May. Also, if you have ideas for events that you think we'd be a good fit for, let us know. We're always looking for more events to attend, and you know, we'll definitely check it out, see if it's something that we can fit into our schedule. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. We do post a lot of information in there, so that's always a good place to find out, you know, when the next webinar is happening, if there's a new release out, if we're doing a survey for customer insight, all that kind of stuff. We use all those, so just make sure you check us out there. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the setup. So in QuoteWerks, when you first log in, it's going to bring you to a, if you've never logged in before, it's going to bring you to a setup wizard. And it basically, it's just going to walk you through to select your country. So you can select your currency, set your region, that type of information. You also set your CRM or PSA integration, which we'll get to in just a moment. Once you've done that, this is what you're going to see is kind of like a blank screen. This is what we call the quote workbook. So you see these 6 tabs. This is going to be that information. So anytime you read our documentation or speak with one of us and we reference quote workbook, this is what we're talking about are these 6 tabs. So this is what you'll see every time you start a new blank quote in QuoteWerks. So for anyone that needs assistance, or if you want to view the help file, that's available under your help menu up at the top. Just click help and then click on QuoteWerks help. And that'll bring you right to the QuoteWerks help file, and you can see it's listed in a table of contents, has all the chapters that you could possibly need with all the information in QuoteWerks. You can see there is an option for search, so you can search by keyword. If you click on the quick start guide, it'll actually kind of navigate you through starting a quote, adding items, all that information. So some really good information there. The QuoteWerks help, the QuoteWerks 5.0 help guide is what has these actual chapter numbers here, and this will walk you through so you can actually see which chapters are there, and they'll break down even further to kind of how to use it or specific features that you may have interest in. Very, very useful if you are setting up your CRM or PSA and you have questions about the setup. That's in here. That's actually in Chapter 9. So if you go down to Chapter 9, you'll see there's a contact management integration chapter that's specific to your CRM or your PSA setup. So let's go ahead and go right to setting up your CRM or PSA. So in QuoteWerks, to set up your contact manager, you're going to click on Contacts, and then you'll see an option for Set up Contact Manager. So we're going to click on Set up Contact Manager, and you're going to see a list of all the available contact managers here. So you simply need to select your, the one that you're going to use. If you don't have a contact manager, you could use QuoteWerks for your contact database. That's what we're going to use for this demonstration. This is useful, like I said, if you don't have a contact manager, if you're just kind of manually putting in your contacts, you can use QuoteWerks for that instead. You'll see there is an option for importing contacts and being able to pull specific fields through our data link. We're not going to go through how to do the actual setup for all of the contact managers. Like I said, just reference Chapter 9 in the help file, and that'll actually walk you through setting it up for yours. For most of the setups, they're going to be very simple. Usually takes only 5 or 10 minutes tops to set that up. So once you've set up your CRM or selected your CRM, we can then move forward to setting up products. So that's the next thing we want to do. So you have your CRM selected. We need to get our items into QuoteWerks. So QuoteWerks has essentially 2 different ways to set up your items. You can import a price file, which is what we're going to do today, or you can link to an existing database, which I'll show you how to do also. So when you're ready to import a price file, we're going to click on our Products option up at the top, and then we're going to select Import Wizard. And this will bring up our Import Wizard, and it's going to walk us through importing a price file into QuoteWerks. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you already have an Excel sheet of your items, you need to save it as a CSV file. So you can import directly from an Excel sheet. So just do a File, Save As, and save it as a comma-separated value file, so a CSV file, and then you'll be able to pull it into QuoteWerks. If it's in a text file, we'll be able to pull it in that way. So either a text or CSV file we'll be able to do. So once you have your file set, we can then make that selection by clicking on Select, and then in my case, I already have mine ready to go, so I can select my file here and click Open, and then it's going to populate some information here. It's basically just going to tell you where it's stored. You can leave all this information the same. You really shouldn't have to make any adjustments here because it should just be reading from that file. So once you've selected your file, we can click Next. So the next step, this is going to be step 2, is doing the initial mappings. So the initial mappings are going to be kind of like your main fields in QuoteWerks. The only field that we require out of all these fields is going to be the manufacturer part number. So anytime you pull in a price file into QuoteWerks, it's required that you map the manufacturer part number field because that's how we determine if an item is unique in QuoteWerks or not. That's the field we're going to use. So you always want to make sure you map the manufacturer part number. So I'm going to click on my drop-down. And I have my, my item list here. You can actually see my item list open. And it already has at the top here the different headings, so I know which field to map to what in QuoteWerks. So it makes it a little easier for you. So I would suggest doing this is that once you have your price file, go ahead and put your different headings in so you know what each column is, and that'll make it a little easier to map when you start pulling these items into QuoteWerks. So let's go ahead and map our manufacturer part number. And then we need to do our unit cost. Your unit cost is going to be what it costs you to pull in that item or what it costs you to sell that item. So that's going to be your charge. The unit price, which is going to be the next field, is going to be what you're selling this item for. So this is saying, hey, this item I'm going to sell it to my customer for a 20% markup, or it's going to be $150, whatever it is. That's what you're charging the customer. The unit list is going to be the MSRP price. So essentially whatever the MSRP on that particular item is going to be, that's going to be set as the unit list here. And we'll finish just mapping the rest of ours. We have our manufacturer. And we also have our description field. The description field is going to be the customer-facing description. So that's going to be another important field. So like I said, the manufacturer part number field is the only field that's required, but typically if you're selling items to a customer, you probably want to put in a description. So that's going to be another field that you're going to want to set here as well. And then once we have that, we can map our vendor part number as well. So those are going to be kind of like the main fields that you want to import into QuoteWerks. And we'll click Next. This next one is going to be your advanced mapping. This has additional fields. So if you have more than these simple fields that you need to import into QuoteWerks, that won't be a problem because this is where you're actually going to do that. So the first one will be kind of like your simple, your basic mapping. A lot of the price files that we see have all those fields, or at least a majority of those fields. You may also have other fields, like maybe you have colors or sizes or other fields that are available to you. That's what these mapping selections on the left-hand side are for. So if you have any other type of fields that you need to map, you can do that here. We do have custom fields, so if you do have something like colors or sizes or anything like that that you need to map into a database, you'll be able to make your selection on the left-hand side. In this case, I have an item type field, which is sort of like a category. So I can actually map that to my item type field in QuoteWerks, and it's just in alphabetical order. So if you're looking for a specific field to see if it exists in QuoteWerks, just realize that it is in alphabetical order. So in this case, I have item type, so I simply select. They're both highlighted, and then once that's done, I can click Map. And then you can see it's always going to be mapped when there's the little star next to it. So that'll tell you that that field has been mapped. And then you can see that it's been mapped to field 7. Field 7 is item type in QuoteWerks. We're good to go. Everything is mapped here. So our next option is going to be Next. This is where we're going to import the items into our database. So we actually need to tell QuoteWerks how are you going to import these items. Are you going to create a new database, or are you going to import it into an existing database? If you have already set up QuoteWerks and you chose to install the default information, you'll have a database called Our Products. In that case, you can put that information in here and you can import into that existing database. The have QuoteWerks create a new database to put the products into will let you start with a fresh blank database in QuoteWerks. That way you don't have to worry about mixing items together, or if you have different vendors that have different items, you can import your items into each vendor's database. For our purpose, we're going to go ahead and create a new database. I'm going to have the import start at row 2. The reason I'm having to do that is if you remember when I showed you my price list here, row 1 just has my header line. So I don't want my header descriptions in my price file. I just want the items themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and start at row 2 because that's where my items actually start. You do have the options of creating folders. This is something that you can read about in the help file. So if you do have information about, or if you do have information you want to organize into different folders, you can set those up in QuoteWerks. Again, just reference the help file for that information. So once we make our selection, we're going to click Next. And then you have the option to save it as a template. This is extremely useful if you receive a price file from your vendor on a regular basis or even a semi-regular basis where you need to be able to add items or make changes to your database, or maybe your vendor gives you a brand new price list every week or every month. Instead of having to go through this mapping process each time, if you save it as a template, you can load your template settings, and then you can do a re-import or add in existing items or just update the existing items with new pricing, that type of information. So if you do want to save it as a template, simply click Yes, Save Template with the following name, and then go ahead and name it something that you'll know. So maybe it's going to be Vendor A, so we'll call this Vendor A Template. So just give it a name that you'll know what it is, and then hit Save, and then you can start the import. Next, it's going to ask you to give your vendor name or to give it a vendor name. So this is typically whatever your vendor is, whatever their company name is, that's what you're going to put in here. So in our case, we're calling this Vendor A. So I'm just going to name it Vendor A. And for my database, I'm going to do the same thing. So again, it's going to ask you for a file name. Go ahead and hit give it a name. And then typically, you're just going to use the same name for the actual database file name in QuoteWerks. So mine's going to be Vendor A. I'll hit OK. And then you can see here, it's imported into QuoteWerks. It then asks you if you want to view the log. That's not necessary unless something happened or you wanted to view it, but it is available for you. So we're just going to go ahead and click No. Now, you can always check if your items have been imported into QuoteWerks by clicking on the Products icon. So the Products icon is where you'll go when you're ready to select items to your document. So we're going to click on Products. So like I said before, we had our products database, which is our default demo database that came with QuoteWerks. And now I have my Vendor A database. And when I click on it, you'll see now I have all those items that were in my database. It'll show you how many items you've imported. So if you're looking at your list and you're saying, you know, it's supposed to be 215, then some of those items obviously didn't get in here. I know I only have 170, so those did come in. So I know I'm set here. Once your items are in your database, you can make modifications to them. So if you want to add a product picture, add a spec sheet, anything like that, simply highlight the item, right-click, and choose Edit Item. And this will let you make additional changes to it. So if you want to adjust the item's description, maybe you need to change the item's price, you can make those adjustments here. And like I said, if you want to attach a spec sheet, maybe there's information on like a custom field you need to add, or you want to add a picture, or maybe it's a recurring service, this is where you can make those changes. So again, once you're in your products, or once your products are inside QuoteWerks, you'll be able to go to that database and then right-click and choose Edit Item. You can search for a specific item by looking at the manufacturer, the vendor part number, the item description, or the manufacturer part number. If you import multiple vendors into QuoteWerks, so if I had Vendor A, then Vendor B, Vendor C, and so on, and I wanted to, and they all sell the same items or similar items, and you want to search all of them at once, just click on your multiple database search up at the top, and this will let you search across multiple vendors. You'll actually specify your vendors here on the right-hand side where it says multiple database search. So I can choose databases, and it'll let me select which vendors I actually want to pull into QuoteWerks or include in my search. So just a little shortcut if you have multiple vendors set up. So now that we have our items in QuoteWerks, the next step is going to be setting some personal settings. So you need to put your contact information on all your quotes. In QuoteWerks, we'll actually save your contact info so you don't have to do that each time. So let's go ahead and save that as well. Russ has a good question. He's asking if you have to change the picture and the other information of an item every time you upload a new CSV file. It depends. If you are basically overwriting it, then yes, because you're basically going to delete all the items in the database instead of just updating. If you're updating the items, only the items that have been updated will change. So it just kind of depends on your settings when you're doing the import. So let's go ahead and set our personal preferences. So we're going to click on Tools, My Preferences, and the My Preferences is going to be set for each user in QuoteWerks. So each user is going to have their own name, their own username, their own title, address, all their own contact information. That's where this is set. So if you're looking at QuoteWerks and you're sending out quotes and you're saying, hey, it's someone else's picture, it's not my contact information, that means your My Preferences under the Tools menu has not been set properly. So let's go ahead and set it here. So I'm just going to put in my full name, my title, and then we can put in our physical address. And then our city, state, zip. Typically, if you're in the U.S., you can leave the country blank. If you only sell to other states, or if you're in Canada, if you only sell in Canada, then you can probably leave your country blank. It's going to be up to you. If you want to fill it in, you can. Go ahead and put in your phone number here. This is important that you format it the way you would like it to look, because this doesn't have any automatic formatting. So if you just put in, if I just put in 407-248-1481 without any dashes, it's going to have it just look exactly like that on my document. So it is important that when you put in your phone number, you have it formatted the way you want it to show up on the document itself. If you have an extension, go ahead and include that. If you have your mobile number, your cell number that you want to put in, you can do that. Same thing with your fax number. Now you'll see here you have the option to include a picture and an electronic signature. This will actually show up on your documents if you want them to. So if you want to include a picture of yourself or your reps with every quote that goes out, you do have that option. To select a picture, you're simply going to click on the Select Picture button, and then you need to select your picture here. You can see I have mine saved already, and it's already been formatted to the correct size. So it's going to be for your sales rep pictures. They need to be 120 by 180 pixels. That's the optimum size. This is in the user's manual, so if you do have questions or you can't remember the size, just go to the help file. It'll tell you exactly the size that you should select. So I'm going to go ahead and select myself here. So I have my picture selected. And then the electronic signature, I believe, is 120 by 50. Let me see if I can find my signature here. Oh, it's right next to it, actually. So mine is selected there, and I can hit open, and then now I have a picture of my electronic signature. So it just gives it a little more of a personal touch on the document. These are optional settings. Everything here is technically optional. I would recommend filling it out. But the pictures, if you don't want your pictures on your quote, that's fine. It's a purely optional setting. You don't have to set it. The next tab after you set that information is going to be the email tab. The email tab is going to be your email address. So when you want to put your return email address on all the quotes you want to send out, this is where you're going to put that information. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and use sales@QuoteWerks.com. But you would obviously just put in your email contact information here. The next option is going to be, how do you want the document to be sent to your customer? Do you want to send it as a PDF, which is probably going to be 99% of you? You can also send it as an RTF. Send it as an RTF, just know that that is a format that could be customized or changed by the customer. So typically it's a PDF document that you're going to want to send out. You also have the option to spell check before sending the email. So if you click send, it'll actually pop open the spell check wizard for you, so you can set that. And then here's where you actually set up your email settings in QuoteWerks, so you can email directly from QuoteWerks. To do that, you have two options. You can send via Outlook. So if you're using Outlook for your email, just send Outlook, and that's all you have to do. If you want to review the email in Outlook before sending, check this box. What this means is that when you hit send in QuoteWerks, QuoteWerks will automatically open up Outlook, and Outlook will display the email that you're sending, and you can make any kind of changes to it if you need to. Maybe you need to CC someone or attach a different file, or just make a change. You can do that if you're more comfortable doing that in Outlook instead of our email window. That's fine. If you don't need that, you can leave it unchecked. So it's just a personal preference. There's one way is not necessarily better than the other. If you're not using Outlook, if you're using maybe Gmail or another system, you can click the QuoteWerks built-in email client, and then you can put in your credentials. If you are using Gmail, you can actually pull in the default Gmail settings. So if you are using the default settings, it'll actually start filling it in, and then it'll have your Gmail address here, and then you can put in your password. If you're not using Gmail, if you're using one of the other providers, you just need to get your email account information from them or whoever set up your email, and they can fill this out for you so that you have that information available. For our purpose, we're going to set it for Outlook because it's a little easier to use at this point. The default tab will let you set, if you need to set it like a default CC or BCC, so maybe you need to CC the sales manager every time a quote goes out. You can set them up as a BCC if you like. If you need to edit your signature, you can do that here as well. All right. You'll see there's a few other tabs. The miscellaneous tab has some more basically preferences for your settings in QuoteWerks. So I would, again, suggest looking over the help file if you want more information about that. Something else we can go over if you guys have questions about that after the demonstration. All right, so we've now set up our CRM integration. We've set up our preferences. We've imported a price file, so we have our items in QuoteWerks. The next step is going to be to make a change to our layout so we have our branded layout when it goes out to the customer. So let's click on the Deliver icon. So the Deliver window is where you actually choose the output that the customer is going to receive from you. So when you're ready to send the quote or proposal to your customer, you're going to click on the Deliver window. Now, I have quite a few different layouts because this is my training installation, but you're typically going to have probably the 7 or 8 that come with the software, or maybe if you made a couple changes, you can have that. Most companies have 3 or 4 that they use. You can have essentially as many or as few as you'd like to use. It's going to be completely up to you. So I'm going to select this layout here, and I want to make some changes to it. So anytime you're going to make a change to a layout, before you do anything else, we recommend you clone it or make a copy of it. The reason that you do this is that if you delete a field or if you remove something that you didn't mean to, you can actually go back to the original. So we're going to highlight the layout we want to make a change to and click Clone. And then we're simply going to name it. So in this case, we're just going to call it our new quote layout. And then you'll see once you've created it, it'll actually automatically be highlighted for you. And then now we can make some changes. So I'm going to click on Edit. And this is going to bring up our layout designer. Now, this is a fairly complex layout. I wouldn't really recommend spending too much time kind of making changes here. But one of the easiest ways to start using QuoteWerks is just to drop your logo in, something that's a really easy thing to do. So you can see here we have an older logo, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it with our updated logo. This is a pretty old logo. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it. So to delete a QuoteWerks logo that's in your layouts, because I think they all come branded with the QuoteWerks or the Aspire logo, simply click on your logo, and you'll see it has, once you've made a selection, it'll be outlined. And then you can either hit delete on your keyboard or you can right-click and delete. So I'm just going to hit delete on my keyboard, and that removes that logo from my layout. Now, to insert my own logo, I'm going to click on Insert, Picture, and then I'm going to select my file that I want to attach. So in this case, it's going to be in this folder. Now, if you look here when I make this selection, down at the bottom, QuoteWerks is only looking for bitmaps by default. So if you have your logo as a JPEG, you just need to click on the drop-down and select as a JPEG. If you have it in another format, you'll need to save it as a JPEG or a bitmap file instead. We are going to release an update that will support other file types, but right now, as of today, it's only going to support bitmaps and JPEG. So if you're looking for your logo and you're like, I know it's in this folder, I can't see it, you just need to make that change down here at the corner and make sure you've selected JPEG for your file, and then you'll simply select your layout. Click Open, and then you'll see it'll be outlined around your cursor, and then we can choose where we want it to set up. So if we want it in this top corner, then we just need to resize it. Let's move it a little bit here. All right, so that looks a lot better. So we have our updated logo on there. If you wanted to change colors and fonts, this is where you're going to do that. So if you did want to get into the Layout Designer and change more information, you can do that. We actually had a webinar where we walked through how to use the Layout Designer to change colors, fonts. We spent about an hour just saying, hey, here's how you change fonts, here's how you change colors, here's how you can run some different filters and things of that nature. So we're going to go ahead and just leave this as is, but this is where you come in. You can see if you select, the background here and right-click on it, it'll give you some options for changing the font or putting a border or changing the background color, things like that. So this is where you'll come in to make any changes to the layouts themselves. So once you've made your changes, you have the option to close it, save and close it, save and preview. So if you wanted to see what it looked like before adding items to the document, you can do that. So let's go ahead and save and preview. That way we'll save our changes and see what it would look like. And now you can see here we have our updated logo, and then we do have my picture on there as well. And then if I had my items, they would actually start showing up here. So since I have a blank quote, there's nothing here. But you can also see it has my contact information in there as well. So now all my quotes will be branded with my contact information. And anytime I use this layout, it has my logo that I want to use. So it's a quick way to make very easy updates to your layouts and start sending quotes using QuoteWerks. All right, so let's go ahead and close out Layout Designer. So that's how you can set up the software itself. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, those are going to be kind of the main things that you focus on. The other option that I wanted to show you before we actually create a quote is under your Tools menu, and if you click on Options, this will give you a list of all the kind of like default settings you'll use for your quotes. So this will show you where you can set like the default expiration date, if you have customer terms, a default tax rate. All sorts of information will be set here. So if you're using the distributors like Tech Data, Ingram Micro, Synex, D&H, this is how you can get there is by clicking on that Real-Time tab. So you have a lot of options to set your defaults here. So if you want to be able to do that, you can change that. This is also where like your document name information will be set as well. So your Tools Options menu is going to be options for QuoteWerks for the entire installation. Tools My Preferences is going to be specific to your user in QuoteWerks. So whoever you're logged in as, that's going to be through Tools My Preferences. If you want to set up a new user in QuoteWerks, click on Utilities and then User Maintenance. This will let you create multiple users in QuoteWerks. This is also where you can set security settings and things of that nature. If you're going to go there, I would recommend reading over the help file chapter on that. There's a whole chapter about the user security settings and setting up user properties and things of that nature. So I'd recommend checking out the help file for that information. All right. Once it finishes updating here. So now we're going to go ahead and I got a couple other questions here. Yes, someone's asking if QuoteWerks offers custom layout design. Yes, we do. There's about 7 or 8 layouts that come with the software, and there's about, I don't know, probably half a dozen more that are on the website. So if you go to the website and you click on Downloads, click on Additional Downloads, and then you'll see an option that says Sample Word or Sample Layouts and Word Templates, and then there's a Visit the QuoteWerks Layouts page. This will show you some other layouts that are available from the software. So if you don't like the layouts that come with it, check out the sample layouts here. If you don't like those, or if there's nothing that's close to yours, we can customize a layout design for you. That price is $100 an hour, and it depends on support's availability. But just send us an email or give us a call, and we'll let you know what's available to you. I had another question about the layout designer, but on the Word side. So it's asking, how would you use Word? So you can see here I have a Word proposal in here already. What you would do is, if you wanted to use Word as your layout designer, you're going to go ahead and save your Word file. So you would open up your Word document. So let's go ahead and just open up this one since I have it here. So you would open up your Word file, and you would click File, Save As, Word Document. And then you need to save it in the QuoteWerks directory. So wherever you have installed QuoteWerks, in that directory, there's a folder called Layouts. And you just double-click in there, and then you want to click Quote. So there's going to be a folder called Quote. Double-click in there, and then you name your Word layout. And then once you've done that, you may have to actually close QuoteWerks for that to show up. But once you do that, it'll show up here under your Deliver window. There's a few different there's quite a few different macros that are supported in the Layout Designer for Microsoft Word. So you can see here we have different macros that are available. These are all available in the help file. So if you go back to that help file, you'll be able to see a full list of the macros that are supported. All right, so let's go ahead and go through creating your first quote in QuoteWerks. So typically, if you remember when we showed the workflow diagram in the PowerPoint, we said, typically you want to start with the contact. You want to select the company that you're selling to first. This is specifically important if you are using a CRM or PSA, because this is going to link directly to that CRM or PSA by the company or by that contact. So it's important that you select them. There's also who are going to create that opportunity for, so if you're selecting them, so you want to make sure you do that. So I'm going to click on the Sold to Ship To tab, and then I select my magnifying glass. And this will let me search for my contact. Depending on which CRM or PSA you're using, your window is going to look either close to this or a little different. And then you can make your selection once you've found your contact. So in this case, we're going to select John. And then you have your option, you're sold to, ship to, and bill to. And that'll correlate with your 3 fields here. And then we can populate all three by using the all button instead. So if you're selling to one location, everything's going to the same contact, everything can be under the same address, you can just hit all and it'll populate all three fields. The sold to is sort of like the default field in QuoteWerks. This is who we're going to send the document to. This is who we're going to create the opportunity for if you're integrating with one of the CRMs. So it's important that you always fill out the sold to. Ship to and the bill to are additional fields, so if you need them, they're there. But these aren't going to determine who is actually the opportunity is being created for. That's going to be based on the sold to. So it's something to keep in mind. Once you select your contact, we can now start adding items to the document. So now you can actually go through and start adding items. One of the nice features in QuoteWerks is the ability to organize the document into different sections using what we call heading lines. So on the Document Items tab, if I right-click, there's an option that says Insert Heading. This is my edit menu that I just get to by right-clicking. It's actually the same menu as if you click on Edit up at the top. It's just easier to get there by right-clicking when you're working on your Document Items tab. So in my Document Items tab, if I choose Insert Heading, I can put in a heading description. Your heading descriptions could be whatever you'd like. If you want to say, hey, these are the products you're purchasing and here's the services you're buying, you can organize them that way. If you're maybe you're working on multiple offices and you're saying this is for Office 1, these items are for Office 2, you can do it that way. If you do things by rooms, maybe this is for the living room, this is for the kitchen, that kind of stuff. However you want to organize it, it's up to you. So in this case, we're going to do a very generic one. We'll say products, and then I'll add one more, and I'll say services. And again, I'm just going to right-click and choose Insert Heading. I'm going to add one more heading, and that's going to be, we'll say optional items. So we'll put some other items on there. And then we have this extra line item here. So anytime you have an extra line item or an item that you don't want on the quote, you just highlight it and hit delete on your keyboard, and you can remove it from the quote. So now that we have our heading lines, we can go straight to adding our items. If you don't organize your document this way, that's fine. Just skip this step. Go straight to adding your products and services. You don't have to add heading lines, just something that's available to you. So let's click on the products icon, and this will show us our product databases that are available. So let's go to the database that we added first, which was the Vendor A database. When I click on that database, it shows a list of all my items available for that vendor. If you don't see all of your items at once when you click on it, just click the Show All button. It's just a setting that you can change. But for this purposes, if you don't see your items when you select your vendor, just hit Show All, and it'll load all those items for you at once. From here, we can search by pretty much anything. So if you want to search by the item's description, we can do that. So if I want to say, okay, show me all the TV items, I can just type in TV. Check the box to make sure it says contains, because if you don't check this, it's going to look for an exact match. If you check this box, then it'll look just for anything that has the word TV in it. So then I'll hit Find, and it's going to return back these 25 items. And now I can make my selection. So now I can actually pull in, okay, I want to select, we'll go down a little bit farther here. We'll select this item, and this item. So we selected multiple items just by holding Control on your keyboard and then selecting them. And then once I'm ready to add them to the document, I can click Select Add. And then I can select my different headings. So this is one of those nice features that since I have those headings, I can choose exactly where I want this item to show up. I can change my quantity. You can also just type in here. So if you want to sell 3 of these, you can do that. You can also change the price. So if I just want to sell this for $1,900, I can type that in as well. You can also check price history from here. So the Add Item Assistance is going to allow you to change the quantity, adjust price, change price history, or check price history, and then choose exactly where you want to add it to the document. And then I can click Add, and you can see it adds under products. So maybe this is an optional item. So I can choose Optional Items, click Add, and it adds under my Optional Items section. So that's why the heading lines can be very useful, and you may want to have them on the document beforehand. But again, it's not required. It's just one of the ways that you can use the software. So for this item, we'll go ahead and we'll put it under Products, and then we'll go back to Show All, and then we'll just select a couple different items here to add to our document, and we'll put these under Services. So once you have your items on the document, you can make any changes that you need to. If you need to change an item's description, start typing in the description field. Again, the description field is going to be the customer facing the descriptions. That's what the customer is going to see. If you double-click the description field, it'll bring up the zoom window that's resizable. The zoom window just lets you see the item's entire description. extremely useful. If you have a lengthier description for a product or service, you can see that information here. This does hold 32,000 characters, which is about 30 pages of text. So if you do have lengthy descriptions for your items, you'll be able to see that information here. You can adjust your price here. So if you've added your items to the document and you want to change this to, $1,800, simply type in the new price. If you calculate your price on markup, saying, we usually mark our items up 15% from cost, we can do that as well using a price modifier. So you see I have my price modifier column here. If I click M and then 15, that would mark it up 15% from cost. You can also click on the drop-down, and you'll see it'll have a list of some of the most commonly used markups. We can also do points. So if you say, we get a 5% margin on everything we sell, we can choose the 5% margin option instead, and then I'll calculate it for us. So it's very flexible with pricing. You can change it manually, or you can update it on the fly. Once you've made all your changes, you can then save your document in QuoteWerks. When you save it, that's when you'll be prompted to save the document or to give the document a name. So just like if you were saving a Word document or you were saving an Excel document, any type of document that you're used to, when you save it, that's when you're prompted to save the document's name. We'll also apply the document number for you. We recommend just letting QuoteWerks number the document for you. You don't need to keep track of your own numbering sequence or anything like that. QuoteWerks has its own auto numbering system, so you can just let it number the document for you, and then you can hit OK. Once you've saved your document, you'll see the document name will show up at the top, and then you'll see your document number. You can also check the document number on the Sale Info tab. That's always a quick way to see if the document has been saved or not. And then once we're ready to send it to the customer, we click on Deliver, and then we'll select our layout. So if you remember before, we made that change to the layout, so that's the one we want to use. You always want to preview your document before you send it. So you want to make sure that it looks the way you want it to. It has everything on the document that you want it to before you send it. So I'm going to go ahead and click Preview. Opens up my preview window so I can see what the document looks like before I send it to the customer. So everything looks good, so I'm ready to email it from the customer or to the customer from here. I can click on my email window. If you need to attach additional documentation, perhaps you have a cover page you want to include, maybe you have terms and conditions, service contracts, warranty information, anything that you want to include with the document, this is where you're going to do that is under this Deliver window. You'll see there's a couple other tabs available for you. So there is a tab for your cover page, so you can set up cover pages. You can set up your literature documentation. Like I said, literature is typically going to be something that goes out on a regular basis with your quotes. So terms and conditions, service contracts, warranty information, anything that kind of goes out on a regular basis, you can select here. If you have any spec sheets associated with your items, those will be displayed here as well, and you can select which ones you'd like to add. And then anything on the links tab, which we hadn't talked about yet today. But if you're adding something just kind of like a one-off document, just, hey, this one time for this one document, I need to also include this product brochure. You can attach it on that links tab, which is right here in QuoteWerks, and it'll show up here. It'll look very similar to literature tab where it'll have a checkbox next to it, and you can choose to include it to the document that you're sending to the customer. For our purposes, we're just going to send the customer just this quote. It's a pretty straightforward quote for the customer. They can see what their pricing is going to be. And then when we're ready to email it, we'll click Email. And then this will bring up your email window in QuoteWerks. And this is customizable. So if you don't like the text, all these email templates are customizable, so you can change that. You can also have different email templates available that you can select from. Or you can just change it on the fly as needed. And then you can see here by default, it's going to send the to document was who I had selected on that sold to, ship to tab under that sold to contact info. So that's the email address we're using here. The from is pulling from your tools, my preferences. So if you're sending out quotes and you realize that, hey, my email address is not showing up in the from, that means you haven't set your return email address under tools, my preferences. And then these are going to be your other default settings. So the subject is going to be the document name and then your file name as well. And then once you're ready to send it, you can send it out to the customer. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and take questions. So you guys have kind of gotten a feel for how you can quickly set up your installation to start using it today and actually start sending out quotes using QuoteWerks. So if you have questions, feel free to start sending them over. I'll circle back and make sure I get all of them. If you missed anything or you came in late, don't worry. We're going to be posting this on the website here in the next couple days. so you can get a full copy of this, or if someone from your team wasn't able to make it, you'll be able to send them the link. So thanks, everyone, for attending today, and stick around to ask any questions. I'd be happy to answer anything else for you.